Cynthia, thanks so much. Followed you on Instagram for ages and ages, right back in my hypothalamic amenorrhea days. And since I've started back up my YouTube, majority of the people that follow me probably have had some issues with their period in the past. And I just thought, right, I know who I can talk to, because also there's a whole camp of active females that follow me, right? And when you said about like, oh, what is it that I'd like to talk about, and I pretty much just summed up your Instagram bio. I think your Instagram bio says something like about restoring your period and your fertility,
Yeah.
but staying active. I've completely butchered it. Obviously, says that in such a nice way. And I was like, yes, we need to chat, because
Yeah.
so many people go into being active, whether that's starting a fitness journey, whether that's trying a new sport like CrossFit or High Rocks or whatever, and they don't quite understand the implications of taking that a little bit too far, which is quite easy to do, isn't it, when you first start? But then on the flip side, I think when you maybe have gone a little bit too far down that hole and you end up losing your period, a lot of the noise and a lot of the advice is, well, that's it, quit then. And I feel like it's so refreshing, your content, to be like, actually, you can do both. Like, you can be an active female and still have your period and still be fertile, and you show us how to do it. So you're a dietitian, right? Yeah.
Yes, I am a registered dietitian. Yes, of over, gosh, I think it's, Chloe, it's going on 15 years, maybe more. 15, because I just finished submitting, because
Okay.
every 5 years we have to submit continuing education units to make sure that we're abreast of the latest research and all that stuff. If not, we lose our credentials. So I just submitted my 5-year
And
period, so it's my
why
third year. So
in
it's
the
been
period
15 years,
fertility
yes,
hypothalamic
as a
amenorrhea
dietitian.
space?
So this is exactly how I really want to start our conversation. So it's suiting that you asked this, because I'm like, you know what? I have so many examples of hundreds of women I've worked with over the past, gosh, I think it's over 5 years now, with HA. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to use myself as an example today. And that's exactly, Chloe, how I got started in the space, is because this happened to me. So I'm going to kind of normalize this issue of HA, because it happens to so many women. I think the stats are over 17 million worldwide suffer from
Right.
HA. Now
What about
that
the
those
pill?
are only women
What
that
about like the
know,
pill and
because
like
here's,
any form of
yeah,
contraception,
those
and
are only
also
women
people
that
just
know.
ignoring it?
Yes, the pill, yes. Or you go to the doctors and you're like, oh, my period's been missing for X. Oh, take the pill to kickstart it, or progesterone to kickstart it, or you're going to need fertility treatment to get pregnant. Just come back and see me when you get pregnant. So there's so many women out there that don't even know. I
Do you
would
think
imagine the number
that's
is like double or
increased
triple if I
as
had to guess.
wellness and fitness
But
has
anyway,
increased?
so if I had to
I
make an
think so too.
assumption, I would say
Because
yes.
it's become so mainstream, isn't it,
Absolutely.
now, to be an athlete?
Absolutely. So, yeah. And I think, yes, I think it's pretty mainstream to be active. And I mean, even, gosh, this is something I struggled with, Chloe, gosh, more than 15 years ago. I don't even know when I lost my period, because I was on the pill, but this is something that still comes up. I just had a woman the other day come to me, and she's like, yeah, my doctor was like, I'm going to need fertility medication to conceive. He said, I'll never conceive naturally, which is so untrue. So it's still happening even almost 2 decades later. So hopefully we're making some invisible changes, but I think, the work that you're putting out there as far as like spreading awareness, this is my favorite thing to do, because the more women know, the more we could change the whole culture of this whole bit. So yeah, so to answer your question about how I got it into the space, is because I struggled with this myself. I spent 5 years trying to figure out what was wrong. Every doctor was like, oh, this is normal. You're on the pill for 10, 15 years, or however long I was on the pill for. And, come back and see me when you get pregnant. Here, try the pill. Oh, your labs are normal. And I'm like, but this is not right. My period is missing. And so, so many women also come to me and they're like, I just like when my doctor was telling me this, I kind of like knew like there was something more to it. And I had that inner knowing too. So trust that inner knowing if you're kind of like, ooh, I feel like there's more to the story than just, oh, it's fine or this is normal or whatever. No, 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 no. So 5 years goes
Yeah,
by. I
same,
was
same.
misdiagnosed with
Yeah.
PCOS along the way, which is a very
Your,
common misdiagnosis. Was
yeah,
it you
your
too?
story,
Yep. Yeah.
your
I
story
wonder
so
what the
far has
stats
been
are on
kind of
that,
like
to be
literally
honest.
same,
I
same
think
in
they
my
got to be
family.
pretty high. Yeah. 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 So that went by, and by the time the 5 year mark hit, I was just about turning 30. And of course, it's like, oh, I'm going to be 30. I got married. I did all the right things. I went to university college. I got the house. I even married the high school sweetheart. And now this is the next thing. I must get pregnant. Right. And so I knew deep down inside it wasn't going to be that easy because I didn't have a period. So 5 years goes by. I finally find a doctor that was like, oh my gosh, Cynthia, you have hypothalamic amenorrhea, HA. And I'm like, no, 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 impossible. That is impossible. I am a dietitian and I learned about that in college. And these are the only women that get missing periods, women with eating disorders, women that have low BMIs, women that are athletes. I'm none of those. So, no, this doesn't apply to me. And so I sat in that for a while and I'm like, this doesn't make sense. And then of course my research brain was like, all right, let me dig into this on, the internet. And at that time there was no resources, no book, the book No Period, No Now What by Dr. Nicola Sykes, who is just amazing. If you don't have that book, I recommend it. There was nothing, no resources. I was completely in the dark. And so I did figure out like, okay, this could potentially be a thing for me. And then at that time, but I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Wait a hard second. I'm going to have to eat more, potentially gain weight, stop exercising. Like you said, is this the protocol? Eat all the food, stop exercising. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I had no guidance. I had no nothing. And so I did it and I gained weight and it was really scary. And I remember my grandmother said to me one day, she goes, Cynthia, she's like, are you pregnant? And I'm like, no, why? I shouldn't even said why because I knew exactly what she was going to say. And she's like, oh, well, you look a little heavier.
My brother did
And
say
I'm like,
that.
oh my God,
It was after
like a
lockdown,
knife
and I
in
saw
my
my
heart.
brother, and he was
Like that
like,
was,
"Oh, you were looking
yeah,
fuller."
that was,
He meant it, and he was like, and I was like, "Cheers," and he was like, "No, no, no, like you look healthier," but too late. The dagger was already in.
oh, yeah. And so I'm like, that was the worst thing that could have possibly been said to me. And so, I'm like, I don't want to live this way anymore. I don't want to live fixated on my body and worrying about like if I gain weight and if I don't gain weight, things are okay. But if I do, things aren't okay. And here along the line, I want to have a baby now because it's been so long. And I thought, oh my gosh, what if I can never have babies? So I ended up starting a fertility journey and getting an IUI. It took me 3 rounds, Chloe, to get pregnant. And I attribute the time it took with fertility because fertility meds are not a fix, like not a quick fix. And they don't avoid the weight gain. In fact, I
So
gained even
you
more
said,
weight on
what were
fertility
you on?
meds because of all
Sorry.
the hormones and
So
stuff like
you,
that. So, so I had an IUI. So they said Clomid isn't going to work because my hypothalamus was shut down. So anyone out there that is exploring the fertility
so
route,
these are
it's like if
certain
you have
pills
HA,
that, for anyone that
Clomid is
doesn't know, these
not
are
going
certain pills
to.
that people can take. Do you know if you can in the UK as well, or is this
Yes.
US? Yeah.
Yes. Yes, yes, it is in the UK too. And I'm not saying it won't work, but if your hypothalamus is completely shut down, which it does happen in HA, Clomid, you got to go right to injectables. And so that's what the doctor was like, you know what, that's
Okay.
not going to work. If these
Yeah.
injectables
Some
don't
my
work, we go to
siblings.
IVF. It's almost like they give you a platter of like choices. So yeah, so I decided, I'm like, I don't know if this whole missing period recovery thing, eating more, resting more is going to work because right now I've gained weight. It hasn't worked. So I got really impatient. But did I really get impatient? Because I spent 5 freaking years trying to figure this out. So it's like, did I not? And so I ended up getting pregnant on my 3rd round. And my ovaries were hyperstimulated along the way. I was out of work for 2 or 3 weeks. So fertility treatment is not like the easy button by any means. So I just want to say that. And in conjunction with recovery, they can be supportive. And I'm not anti-fertility because my second baby was conceived naturally, unexpectedly, because I fully recovered. And so anyway, so that's how I got in the space. It's something that happened to me, but I was the woman who was going to, at the time, CrossFit was like big. And so I was CrossFitting. Prior to CrossFitting, I was shredding for my wedding. So I had to have the most perfect body for my wedding. So I have, no, again, no idea when my period went missing because I was on the pill. But when it came down to doing all the changes of eating more, resting more, and gaining weight, that was really hard. And so after this journey, I had my second baby. I didn't even speak publicly about it at this time because I was so ashamed that I was a dietitian. I should know better. But in all actuality, women, I, at that particular time, was being praised for being so disciplined. Like, oh my gosh, Cynthia, look at you. You go to the gym every day and this healthy lunch and, you're working 3 jobs. Like, I was the get shit done girl. And what perceived from the outside, I had it all. I had the husband, I had the house and the career and the body and the this, and deep down inside I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable. My life, Chloe, was like, I was like I remember one of my clients was like, Cynthia, I felt like a robot. I'm like, yes, that is an amazing way to describe it. It's like there's no room for anything else but your routine, waking up, going to the gym, cooking healthy foods. If your friend is like, hey, let's go out tonight, and you didn't have that set and plan, like you're not going. And it's just it's just a really crappy way of living. I was missing life for so long. And, this under fueling for me, which I didn't know I was doing because I learned in college calories in versus calories out. So I was eating, I think at the time, and I don't want to use numbers. I'm going to try to steer away from that, but it was probably a little bit more than maybe a toddler needed. Okay, this is baseline. But this number is very known in like, oh, this is enough food. I'm going to say the number because I think it's important right now. 1,500 calories. That's, 50 maintenance or whatever the frig you call it. Just by the way, there's no such thing as maintenance calories. That's not a freaking thing at all. I'm not going to go into the science of it right now, but I was eating what I thought was for my barely 5'1" frame, petite girl, enough food. I wasn't losing any weight. So I'm like, all right, I'm not losing any weight. I'm cool. I'm good. No, my body was holding on to every little bit it could and slowed my metabolism down. If anything, I probably was gaining weight at some point. And I'm like, why am I not losing any weight these last 5 pounds or 2 pounds or whatever the hell the number was in my head? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And I had no hormones online. So I was baseline. My friends would always be like, oh, Cynthia, that's just who she is. She's just a bitch. But my overtraining, my dedication to CrossFit, I was one of the top athletes in my gym. And it was very like, oh my gosh, like I want to be like Cynthia. And, you know, that looking back, I remember a girl that she was new to the gym and she saw me doing pull-ups and she's like, oh my God, she's like,
Yeah.
and this is when I just found out I got the diagnosis. I didn't stop CrossFitting yet. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel like such a fraud. I feel like such a fraud. And so anyway, all this stuff that we do is really hard to realize that we're actually doing something wrong to our body because we are so disconnected from our body. And I'll share, some of the things of disconnect that we don't see, but we're praised for all this stuff. And then we start to identify with this person of us. And I'm not saying like you have to quit exercise, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But, it was really hard for me to give up what I was doing in order to become the healthiest version
Yeah.
of myself because all this
And it's
stuff
such an
that I was doing
identity
gets
change,
applauded.
isn't it?
And why am I going to stop something
I
that?
feel like what's so interesting is that your story
Mm-hmm.
literally feels like a complete replica of mine. And from the girls that I talk to all the time, Same personality traits, same,
And
often I see
so
people that have
many
come
out
from an
there,
eating
right?
disorder background that have recovered from an eating disorder and then gone down sort of a similar route to us, if you like, as like that fitness route. But this feels so common.
Yeah.
When you were trying to recover, and the approach that
So,
you give people, can we talk about that? Like, what is your approach? Do people have to give up exercise? Do people have to eat the 2,500 calories from the No Period Now book? How do you approach it?
yeah. So I am a big fan, Chloe, of individualized support. So I want to talk about, and I like Dr. Nicola Sykes, who I like to say she kind of dubbed the word all in, or the saying all in. And I just want to say, like, her book is such a resource for women that cannot get individualized support, but recovery is so extremely individualized. So not every woman needs the same recovery path. And, the internet or AI or whoever, whatever is out there, tends to kind of oversimplify recovery, because it's like, okay, just eat more and rest more and give up exercise. And I like to say that approach could be okay if you're not able to get individualized support from, a dietitian that, specializes in HA, or an eating disorder specialist that is very versed in HA, because sometimes
Yeah,
even
I've
ED
even
specialists
spoken
are
to
like, oh, well,
people
your
that
weight
have
restored
been
now.
through
Like,
an
I don't know
eating
why your
disorder.
period's not back yet. You
Um,
know,
some of the tools they were given to get themselves out of an eating disorder aren't tools for life, and actually I found them really struggle on a day-to-day basis, whether that's through meal planning, having to only eat feeling like they can only eat certain foods, or feeling like they have to lean on their family
yeah.
members because they can't trust themselves. I think there's a gap, isn't there, between I
Mhm.
feel like there's a missing puzzle piece somewhere after eating disorder support, and then into life. It's like there needs
Yes.
to be a bridge. Who's going to support to that bit?
Yes. I 100% agree, because I see so many women that are like, I'm no longer in my ED, but I can't get my period back. And, first I want to say, not every woman loses their period, right? And what it takes for one woman to get her period back and another woman to get her period back, it's something called genetic variability. One of my colleagues, Dr. Gaudiani, who wrote the book Sick Enough, who's an amazing resource in the eating disorder field. She's like, this is just genetic variability. That some women lose their period, some don't, some take longer to get recovered and have a regular period, and some just don't. So we can never compare ourselves to someone else, but that transitional period, I just want to say, Chloe, like you said, is very pivotal, because it's like, well, I've done all this freaking hard work in my ED recovery. I've gained the weight. I'm, able to go out to dinner with my family now, whatever it may be. And it's like, what in the actual F? Where is my period? So twofold is that sometimes those approaches in ED recovery, whatever they may be, may not be supportive in quote unquote real life, because chances are, if you have a bad ED, like, we gotta get you healthy. Like, there is like nothing about like, let's go in and as a balanced approach. Like, we need to get you nutritionally rehabilitated, because once we get you nutritionally rehabilitated, that rational brain comes online, and we can do more things that maybe are in balance, if you will. But depending when that woman stops the ED treatment and where she is in her overall journey, chances are there might be that transitional period. And I like to say, I really step in and help them bridge what they've been through already, and making it so they can live a full, free, normal life while getting their period back, and not also identifying as like, oh, the girl who had the ED, and like, I'm never going to recover, and so forth. So yeah, I would agree with you there, but so many variables behind
So
that.
yeah, and this is what's
So
interesting, isn't it? Is like
so yeah.
the variables, we all want a one size fits all. fundamentally, we all do need to look at, okay, if we looked
Oh
at
my gosh,
ourselves dead
yes.
straight in the eye, could we put our hand on our heart and
Hmm.
say that we were doing everything we probably know we should? Now, for actually a lot of people, for some people, they can be like, yeah, I'm doing, I'm following what the influencer says. I'm training for the ultra marathon. I'm doing loads of CrossFit. I'm doing this, and I'm eating really healthy. So there's like the one side of people that are know that they've maybe got a problem, and maybe they've still got a few restrictive thoughts and stuff. And then there's these just sort of everyday athletes that, a bit like yourself, right, didn't believe you sort of fitted into that camp. So while there is individual approach, is there anything that sort of for fertility, I guess, and to make sure that we are having a regular period, that these sort of everyday athletes should be, what is that protocol that they should be living? Because also, just to revert back on sort of that eating disorder mindset as well, did you find, and do you find with clients, that when someone's under eating, food is so much bigger anyway in their mind? Like, the thoughts and the sort of freak out around food is
Oh
so
yeah.
much bigger when we're restricting because of that mental hunger. Sorry, two questions there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So first question is kind of like, how do these active women keep their
Uh,
periods?
no, I think they've lost
So
it.
so they
They've
haven't
lost
lost
it.
them at this
It's
point.
gone.
Okay. Yes. So, well, first off, how do we, I guess, turn that question into how do we get our periods back? And, if it's not individualized, like how do we do that? And I think what often happens is that there's a lot of women out there that can get their periods back themselves. So they're like, okay, give me the rules. The rules: eat more carbs, eat more fat, eat frequently throughout the day. So these are some of the more blanket advice. Get at least 2,500 calories is another blanket advice. Trying to think, and cut out the exercise. And so we do this recovery in a perfect way, just like we do so many other things in our lives, in a very rigid structure way. Like we completely put our lives on hold to say, like, I'm going to get my period back, right? I'm good, which is fine to a certain extent, because guess what? With a missing period, not only comes infertility, bone density issues, thyroid issues, anxiety, digestive, low libido. Let me see what else I'm missing. Poor recovery. So if you're truly an athlete, like, and you are an active woman who your strength is really important to you, um, chances are you're going to poor recovery, or you're not going to get as strong. I had a client the other day. She's like, I just don't know why I'm building muscle. She's like, but I still want to continue weight training. I'm like, girlfriend, like, we need to get your period back. And so that we could, because right now, if you continue to weight train while you don't have a period, well, we're kind of like beating a dead horse, if you will. Like nothing's happening there. And if we don't have proper estrogen levels, we can't have good recovery, and we can't build
Is it,
muscles as we would
is
if
it,
we did have proper estrogen levels. So, and what's that? No, it really is. But we've been told, so I like to say there's like two parts happening in our brains. It's like we've been told on this side, like bone health, weight bearing exercises, lift weights, you're a woman. And then on the other end of the spectrum, it's like, oh crap, well, my bone health is at risk because I don't have a period. But then we have this voice in our head, and then we have that voice. And how do we come in the middle to meet the two of like, all right, can we still continue some? And the chances are, I can't say that for certain, because like I said, the approach I like to take is very individualized. If there's an obsession there, like in a routine, is it that, or is it, you're truly trying to be healthy? Because the rational part of, like, if we don't have a period, we're not healthy, but we're trying to still be healthy by weightlifting. So it's really
yeah.
trying to
And I
bridge
guess
that
understanding the
that new
nuance
truth
between
and kind of
everyone, right?
rewire your
Is
brain,
that
if you will.
what's
So
your why? Why are you doing everything?
yes, and truly, I was actually just interviewing the doctor I just mentioned, Dr. Gaudiani, on my podcast the other day, and she's like, truly, if it is about, athleticism and performance,
Yeah.
there is going to be more of a push to be like, all right, I'm eating the food, I'm doing the rest, versus that underlying fear of like, oh my gosh, like, what if I don't do this? What's going to happen to me? And so forth. So, the very traits that help women excel in this athletic or even career wise are often the same traits that have women be stuck in this HA. So circling back to like, okay, we can eat more, we can rest more, we can follow the blanket rules of recovery and get our periods back. And hopefully we keep our periods, right? But if we're still having those thoughts of like, oh my gosh, I couldn't eat this and I gotta eat that, and what if I do this and that? Like I like to tell my clients, I'm like, sometimes I'm more excited to hear you guys are going out to dinner with your husband or whatever versus then you getting your period back. Of course I'm excited, but if we have a period and we still have all these lingering like mental chatter, like that's not healthy either. And guess what? There's some women out there that don't lose their periods despite. So can we say that 100% you get your period back and you keep it, you're 100% healthy? Well, your bones are better, your heart, is more protected, but do you really want to live that way in your head? And so what I find, Chloe, is that, there are women that get her periods back.
Yeah.
Great, they
They
follow the
rebound,
rules,
right?
but then they're
They get
like,
one
I can
period
keep
and
my
then they're
period.
like, wah, and then just
And
rush off back into restriction.
yes. Yeah. And we kind of perfect our way into recovery like we have done. And sometimes it works for women, they get their periods back, but I'd have to tell you, probably in the most recent years, the women that I see are like, I'm doing all the things right, but I'm still not getting my period, which is so frustrating. And like I say, a lot of times, I would say most times, all those traits that, brought them the success in their career, in their athleticism and so forth are a lot of times those traits are still lingering, but they're not able to see it because they're doing so much more than they ever
Yeah.
have. And that also keeps them stuck. So yeah. And just like you said, of that gap with eating disorder recovery and like real life, it's kind of the same thing with HA recovery. If we don't approach, and it's different with ED because that's more of a mental illness going on there. So I can't really compare apples to apples, but with HA, if we do it in this like blanket,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
rigid approach, what happens after that? Do we have to maintain that same amount of rigidity to maintain our period? So that's why I always like this maybe more realistic, balanced, individualized approach in getting your period back so that you can not only, get your period back, but you can
Yeah.
keep
And
it
live
and
with that
not like
label, right?
live in
I
your
see it all the
head
time. I chat to so many people that
24/7
are,
about it.
I've got HA and this is who I am.
Yeah.
Rather than it's like, actually, you've had your period back for over a year now, so you
Yeah.
don't have HA. You probably just still have some restricted thoughts, and it's like letting go of that person. Like there's
Mm.
such an identity change in your journey, Cynthia. Did how did you deal with that identity change? Did you feel like there was one?
Oh yeah. Well, when my doctor first said like you have to like not exercise as much and eat more, I'm like, "What?" Like no, that's not even an option. It took me some time to come to terms with it, but I'm like I'm never going to exercise again for the rest of my life. That's what registered to my brain when someone said I don't have to or don't exercise
Yeah,
as much or take a break. That was like worst case scenario thinking. And going back, it's like, well, you're underfueled. Your brain is going to go to worst case scenario. It is a survival protection mechanism for the brain. So I'm never going to exercise again. I'm just going to, gain all this weight and nobody's going to like love me. And it's so much more than like recovery is so much more than just like eat more, rest more. It's like what if I feel unloved? What if nobody talks to me? What if they're talking behind my back? What are they going to think of me? And so I just had a complete identity crisis of like, what? I don't even know. Like, but I'm a dietitian. I'm supposed to be healthy. Do I need to change a career? Like, no one's going to listen to me and like all the things. And so what I think helped me shift through that identity piece was acknowledging like, this is a problem. Like, life should not be lived this way. One of the pivotal moments for me, Chloe, was when my grandmother said that. I'm like, I cannot live this way anymore. Worried about gaining weight, who's going to say this, that, and the other thing. And then when the first couple rounds of fertility treatment didn't work for me, and I'm like, I gained the weight and I did the things, I started to look deeper. I'm like, I need to let go of the surrender, if you will, to the goal because as a woman growing up with very perfectionist type tendencies, I couldn't perfect my way into recovery or becoming a mom. And so when I tried it, I failed again, asking for the labs, the doctor, and all the things. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. So it was a big rock bottom moment for me that made me think a little bit more deeply of like, who is the woman I want to become? Because I don't want to live my life that way, but I also don't know how to live life any other way. So what gives here? So that's when I started what I like to call is more of a spiritual journey of like, I need to start to connect to the woman that I am. And, this one quote, and I'm probably going to butcher it because I always do, even though it's one of my favorite quotes. But and one of my very past clients before I was in the HA space read it to me this morning. So let's see if I can remember. So it was, I said to my body softly, I've
Nice.
been waiting,
That's
oh
cool.
gosh, I've been waiting my whole life to be your best friend or something like that. I can't even remember, but it was like my body exhaled and I said to it said to me softly, I've been waiting for my whole life for you to be my friend. So I was completely disconnected from my body, not being friends, treating it as the enemy, as a separate part of me. And when I saw that quote, I'm like, oh my God, I've been totally not friends with my body and living so disconnected. And so I started to go a little bit inward and I started working with a therapist, a shaman. I went to some retreats at a yoga center. I learned yoga, I learned meditation, breath work, and just slowing down. Because even though I was eating
Yeah.
the more foods, resting, I was still like living my life in this, like, got to get stuff done and like still in a rigid way. And then I
Yeah.
translated that rigidity
And
to
for someone
recovery
that's watching
until
this
it
and maybe
didn't
they can
work
resonate
anymore.
that they're like real stuck in recovery, it doesn't last forever, does it? Where are you now? Can you give us some hope?
No. Such a season. I was just having this conversation. I'm like, it's hard when you're in the thick of it. It feels like this is going to be life for the rest of your life. And it's not. It is a season. And it's a season that I was eternally grateful for because if I didn't lose my period, I don't know, maybe I would have been stuck in a rigid way. And, then it would have translated to my kids who are 9 and wait, seven, hold on, 7 and oh my gosh, almost 10 and 8. We'll just say that this year. And so it would have translated to my work. I would have not been doing the work that I'm doing now and so many things. So it is a season. So where I am now is that I continue to work deeply on myself. I continue to make sure I'm taking care of myself, not just nutritionally, got that down pat, and the rest got that down pat. I exercise. I am stronger than I have ever been. And I'm 40, Chloe. I'm 40. In my 20s, oh my gosh, my 40-year-old self would crush
Yeah.
my 20-year-old self. Only because I wasn't fueling. I can't even imagine my capabilities as my partner's like, Cynthia, he's like, you're such an athlete. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm just thinking about all the things that I could have done, but hindsight is 2020. And so strong, I'm mountain biking, I'm rock climbing, I'm hiking tall mountains where I live, and I am a mom to two little boys that I'm able to translate this beautiful relationship with food and help them learn that, bodies are all different sizes and shapes and
Yeah.
that, healthy is not a look. And what else am I doing? And yes, this beautiful work that I get to touch women's lives every day. I'm just so grateful. And I get to wake up and not have what I like to call is this layer of like, did I eat enough? Did I rest? Did I this? Did I that? And like, and just focus on being present. And that doesn't always come easy, Chloe, because I don't want to make it seem like it's unicorns and butterflies, even though there's way more unicorns and butterflies than in my HA days. But still, I have to continually be conscious of making sure that, I am taking care of my mind, whether that's doing some breath work, some meditation, taking some time off from being a mom, being in nature. So that is like, it's a maintenance thing. Just like we have to take our vitamins and minerals and continue to
And
nourish
what
our
would, the
bodies, I
final
think it's
question,
really important that we continue to
what would you
nourish our
say,
minds.
how's your relationship with your body different now?
Oh, that's a great question. So I would say, let's see, I ebb and flow. Like I don't weigh myself anymore. And my kids are always like, how much you, I don't know where they got the weight thing. I'm like, I don't weigh myself. Weight is not important. It's not an indication of health. Um, so my body, I would say I am just like so proud of how strong it is, especially at my age. Not that I'm old, but like when I was in my 20s, I'm like, oh, when you're 40, you're going to be blah, 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 blah. No, stronger than ever. And I look at my body towards like not image. Like some days I'll have, I don't even want to say bad body image days, but there's some days when I'm near my cycle, I feel disgusting. I feel gross. I just feel ugh. But I know that that comes along with the territory, and I know how to be kind to my body and say like, all right, let's put some sweatpants on because your jeans just like sitting at your desk all day is just cutting into your belly. And to know that bodies are meant to change and that I know my body will continue to change as I age through my cycle, when I hit menopause one day, and that just to respect it and honor it. I don't look in the mirror ever and be like, oh my God, I love my body. It's so amazing. But I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh, my body. So there's a neutrality, if you will. And that comes with time. And I can assure everyone out there, if you continue to work on your body image, because that's kind of, you get your period back, but the body image stuff is still there. Not going to lie. It doesn't just like magically go away. So advice out there is to continue to work on your body image. Fill your mind with resources that are going to support the vision that you're wanting. So if you want body neutrality, all right, let's be neutral. Like, let's not follow people on Instagram that are showing their bodies off. I had a client of mine that said, is it okay to follow this woman? And she did recipes. I'm like, oh, no. Like this woman you could clearly see is an influencer that has probably an eating disorder or her period's probably missing herself. I'm like, no, not a good place. So let's clean up our feeds. Let's see the people out there, the women that we aspire to be in the way that we're hoping that we are going to be the women that we want to be and have that neutrality. So books, More Than a Body is a really great book by Lindsay and Lexi Kite, Anti-Diet by Christy Harrison, listening to podcasts that are body neutral or body positive, that aren't diet culture. So we have to reprogram our brain in the body image department by resources and everyday practices so that we could eventually look in the mirror and just be completely neutral. So it's a practice. We got to practice and practice until it becomes,
I love that so much.
second nature.
Cynthia, it's so
and it does over time.
refreshing to hear your whole story and to sort of, and I'm sure, there's other areas that we can dabble into. If we had longer, I'd love to sort of know how you navigated sort of your past year with becoming a mum, but maybe that's for another time. But yeah, we're gonna have to. But thank you so much for coming on. It's,
we can do part
it's so
two.
refreshing to hear someone that was a dietitian as well. Like you were saying, you felt you sort of beat yourself up a bit, feeling like you should know better type thing. And it's so refreshing to hear that, because I just think there's, throughout your story, there's so many things that I mean, like I say, it was carbon copy for me, so there's going to be so many things that people resonate with, and it's so refreshing to hear other people's stories so you don't feel broken. So thank you so much for giving your time, and I shall leave down all of your website and your Instagram down in the notes. But thank you so much.
Yes, Chloe, thank you so much for having me. And I just want to say one more thing is that your body is not failing you at all. It's just adapting to what feels unsafe. And there should be no shame around that. So thank you so much for having me.